Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today we're going to be checking out the Curt Trailer Connector Adapter. So this is going to turn your four-way style trailer wiring on your vehicle side into a seven-way. And a couple different reasons someone would use this. Probably the most popular is that your vehicle is equipped with four-way flat wiring, similar to this, all right? But the trailer you plan on pulling has a seven-way round type connector, similar to this one. There's an issue there, right? Those aren't going to pair up. And so where this is going to come into play, this is going to plug into your vehicle's existing four-way wiring and turn into what we have here. So it'll turn into that seven-way, let you plug that style of trailer connector into it. And you kind of get two for one because it'll branch off and you'll still be able to utilize the four-way flat type connector. And if you're pulling that type of trailer, it'll let you power up the lights on it as well. Another reason you could use something like this is as a direct replacement. If your setup is very similar already and you end up damaging the connector or anything along those lines, could work in a scenario like that. But with that in mind, everything that this kit is going to come with is only going to give you your lighting signals. All right, so your taillights, your brake lights, and your turn signals. Now, granted, you can hook stuff up in a way to where you can get electric brake output, a reverse light signal, and 12-volt auxiliary power. But if you're starting from scratch, let's say you're trying to set up a trailer brake controller, for example, there's going to be more parts that are needed to make all that happen. And if that's your case, I would definitely suggest looking into the etrailer.com Universal Brake Controller Install Kit. It's going to be extremely similar to this style of connector, but come with some more wiring and some circuit breakers, electrical connectors, just some of the ins and outs that you're going to need to complete an installation like that and get your vehicle set up to put a brake controller in or have that power sent back here. This is going to come with a bracket that allows you to mount up the seven-way connector and this four-way flat one. However, it's not going to come with a bracket to actually attach it to your hitch. So if your hitch or your vehicle don't have a bracket on it already and you need one, you're going to have to kind of think about that. A bracket that works in just about any scenarios, and one we used here, this is what's called a no-drill long bracket. It clamps around your hitch and then you're able to secure the included bracket and this whole assembly right to it. To compare this kit to some of the other similar ones, here I have on hand one made by Hopkins. Again, it gives you that seven-way round and that four-way flat. And they're, in my opinion, on par with each other in terms of the quality, construction, and everything. The Hopkins one is a little bit different though. So when you wire everything up, it eventually turns into this style of connector. As opposed to this one, everything is pretty much just hardwired into the back of the connector already. And this is super common, a super common type of connector. And I think it might have a small advantage really because you can pick up this piece separately. And so let's say a few years down the road, if you end up damaging this piece, you can replace it a lot easier. It just unplugs and you pop it in there and call it a day. As to where if something were to happen with this one, you'd have to kind of rewire a couple things. It's still doable, not a huge deal, but definitely not as straightforward as just plugging something right in. Ultimately, at the end of the day, not a whole lot to this. So if you're looking to turn your four-way flat type connector into a seven-way round and still maintain that four-way flat, this is definitely a good option for you. As far as getting this hooked up goes, really not a huge deal. A couple connections that need to be made, and that's really all there is to it. So if that's what you plan on doing it yourself, feel free to hang around. We'll go ahead and show you how we did ours. To begin the installation, everyone's setup is going to be a little bit different, so keep that in mind, but hopefully what we do here today can get you going in the right direction for your particular vehicle. But the very first thing that I like to do is attach our connector plug to the included bracket. So I just feed everything through there, and then on each corner you can take a fastener, put it through, and I like to get all of them started hand tight before I actually tighten them all down. But once it's poking through there, you can take a flat washer, put that on, a split lock washer goes on, and a nut, thread on. And once you have all of them started, you can tighten it down using a screwdriver, and this is a 5/16 socket. So I went ahead and attached our whole assembly to the bracket on our trailer hitch, and now we can grab the 4-way connector here, and I definitely suggest getting some dielectric grease and just putting some on the terminals here, help keep them protected. And then this is simply just going to plug into your existing 4-way flat trailer wiring that's on your vehicle. I went ahead where our 4-ways plugged into each other, made a semi-permanent connection. I wrapped it in electrical tape, put a zip tie around it, that way they won't come apart in the future. You can focus on this white wire now. This is going to be a ground. It has this pre-attached ring terminal, so depending on your application, the wire's not super long, but sometimes you can reach up inside of the vehicle and find a good solid piece of metal and use a self-tapping screw like this to secure it. Other times you might have a stud close by that's there from the factory, or you could remove a nut, slide the terminal over it, and tighten the nut back down. So like I said, here's an example of how you can ground your wiring out, as this is the way we did it on our vehicle today. As far as these 3 wires go, whether you need to hook these up or not, it's really just going to depend on your application. In our case, since we're just using our 4-way signals and just converting it to a 7-way round style connector, we don't need to bother to hook these up. But if you were to hook these up, your black wire is going to be the 12-volt auxiliary power. So generally speaking, this would be the wire that you'd connect to that goes up to your battery and a circuit breaker. The blue wire is for a brake controller output, so you'd hook it up to that. And the yellow wire would be for a reverse signal. So that's where that would go. But if you're not using any of those like we are, what I like to do is just kind of fold them over and tape them up. That way, if you do ever need them in the future for whatever reason, you still got them. At this point, I was able to get everything cleaned up, zip tied up out of the way. Man, it's more or less a finished product here. It is a good idea to test everything though to make sure that it's working properly. And I like to use testers like these as opposed to just hooking up to your trailer. And I say that because if your trailer has any issues, it might mislead you into thinking it's something you did on the vehicle side. We'll run through all of our lighting functions. So we have our taillight signal, our left turn, our right turn, and I'll hit our brakes. And of course, if you happen to hook up your 12-volt auxiliary power, should have power back there. If you have your brake controller hooked up, go ahead and hit your manual override. You should have power being sent back. And with your reverse lights, to test those, a lot of times you'll have to start your vehicle and put it in reverse to check that signal. Now that we verified everything is working properly, that's really all there is to it, and we're in good shape. But With that said, that'll finish up our look at of the Curt Trailer Connector Adapter.